Okay, policy debate freshmen, I am making this video because I do not think I'm going to have the time to effectively teach you guys all, especially with the practice one tomorrow. And this is something I hope you guys will look back on as just a general format of how to create a second affirmative constructive. The same principles apply to the first negative constructive. Not so much. A lot of the second type constructive and the negatives block strategy will be similar, in which you're deciding how to respond to arguments. And the one in C is a bit different. I'll see if I can have Rajiv create something like this for you guys to talk about that. I'm just making sure that his neg toolkit is updated on the Dropbox. So let's talk about this. So we know about your guys' 1AC. We have this Yemen advantage saying that our weapons are being used to kill Yemenis civilians. If we stop selling weapons, the killing stops. That's a pretty simple link and impact. We also have this democracy advantage, in which when we sell arms to Saudi Arabia, we're supporting authoritarian autocracies. If we do this, we will lose our global human rights credibility as a country. And we need this in order to address terrorism, ISIS, cyber attacks, all of these things here. So this is our impact. The link goes through the global credibility scenario. It's a pretty short 1AC, but it's what we have. So here I have a practice 2AC. Let's actually first look at the 1 and C. So this is the 1 and C I just threw together from our back files. And this is what I believe that a negative team may read against your affirmative. So we're going to start off with T substantial. So here we have the annual level of FMS is $55 billion, a reduction is 25%, and then the affirmative is not 25%. So we're not topical. So we're going to go to our practice 2AC. In verbatim, if we go to choose doc, if we choose practice 2AC, whenever we use that little tilde key to send stuff over docs, it sends it to the doc that you have chosen. So if I go to our 2AC blocks, if I collapse this down, if I go to topicality, let's go down to substantial, and here, we're going to say it means it has real worth or considerable value. Let's also read another definition. We have time, right? Singular meaning is really bad, right? And I'm also going to copy over our standards, why it matters. So all I'm doing is copying and pasting things over. We go back to our practice 2AC. This is what we have now. We have definitions, right? And we can also stick in just a nice little, well, we don't really need it, so there's no point in having that. But I'm just going to create a new pocket. That's, for me, that's the F7 key. For you guys, that will be the F4 key. If your laptops have a function lock button, make sure to use that. If not, you might have to press down the Fn key in the lower left-hand corner and one of the F buttons up at the top. So if I'm just going to call this T for topicality, and everything here is underneath topicality. This is my responses. Let's go back to the 1 and C. What do they read next? They read the defense industrial base disadvantage, saying that our manufacturing is fragile, arms sales to Saudi Arabia are critical to the economy, and it will, cause a spillover, and we're going to have a recession, and the economic decline causes nuclear war. So let's create a new space. We're going to call this DIB, Defense Industrial Base. Go back to my blocks. This is going to be under topicality. It's going to be under disadvantages. It's all alphabetical. So Defense Industrial Base. Let's see. This is a very generic 2AC. So yeah, let's copy over this non-unique card. Yeah, this is a good link term. This is saying that when we do arms sales, we're actually giving our technology to other countries, boosting their defense industries and making ours, weaker. The economic benefits aren't true. There's some link defense. Let's go down to no impact economic decline. So here we have a no impact card. And there, here, turn Saudi, that's not highlighted. It will be by the time that you guys get this. Here, even better, a no-link card about Saudi Arabia. So if we go back to our practice 2AC, it's all been copied here. Let's make this order make more sense. So let's put the So we're going to start with uniqueness, then move on to link defense, a link turn, and then no impact. And these are our response to the defense industrial base. Arms sales are already decreasing, so the impacts are going to happen anyway. The economic effects are overstated anyways, right? It doesn't even matter that they're decreasing. Especially for Saudi Arabia, like, it's such a small portion of like arms sales and a small portion of stuff that it doesn't really matter. And arms sales, in fact, actually hurt our defense industry. So we should ending them solves for the impact. But that doesn't matter anyway, because there is no impact. You see, all of these things go together to completely destroy and obliterate their argument. Let's go on to the 1 and C. End-use manufacturing. This counterplan essentially says we should track the weapons after they are sold. So let's call this the EUM counterplan. Go back to our blocks. This isn't going to be under disadvantages. This is going to be under counterplans. So if we go down to end-use monitoring, should be here somewhere. Is it not? Did I forget to put it in? Executive order, executive counterplan, end-use monitor. It's not in here. I will add this into this file. I just know it's its own file. End-use. So I used Control-Alt-Space to open the Show Everything window. So if I go to EUM fails, just open that up. I can just tilde it over. And there. I will make sure that this stuff is put in your guys' file. The EUM counterplan, it doesn't work. Why? There's a solvency deficit. We cannot reform the program. It's inherently broken. They are unable to solve for their impacts because the way they're trying to do it will never work. Things will inevitably go wrong. And we already have the best program in the world, but no one else is going to use it. So other arms sales from other countries like Britain and Germany and Canada to Saudi Arabia, no one else is going to do this, EUM program. So let's go back to the 1 and C, almost done. The executive dissad, it shatters presidential power. Let's go executive disadvantage. Let's see, what's the impact here? The impact is that it solves terrorism, rogue states. We really need an executive. So let's go back to our Saudi 2AC blocks. We're going to go down to the executive powers. Here we go. We have a really long 2AC shell. We're not going to do all of this. So let's go something shorter here. If that shows up, it means you're sending it. Oh, that's because I had a tab there. This is fine. Yeah. So Trump is not coordinated. We don't want to give him power. Turn. If we give Trump more power, he's going to cause extinction. And their theories are wrong. This is a card from our app. I'll get rid of that. But yeah, we can specifically, they talk a lot about terrorism. And in fact, here we're going to say executive power does not decrease terrorism. And here's our 2AC. If we look through this, this might be a lot for you guys to read. This is probably something I would do. It's only 4 off-case positions, but you could probably get rid of one of these link defense cards here on Defense Industrial Base. You could get rid of one of these EUM cards, probably the things inevitably go wrong card. And here, you don't need 2 cards disproving their thing at the bottom. This is just for redundancy, so you can say, look, we have more evidence. We're showing how, in fact, we are more credible than our opponents, and our evidence is of higher quality. There's more of it. That means we are correct. And that's essentially how you would construct a 2AC. Now, these would all be off case. And what you should start with is on case. Now, why didn't we? Here's why. On case responses should be analytical. And what I mean by analytical is not a card. So something like this, a piece of evidence, a tagline, an author, is a card. What I'm saying is when you're flowing the round on your 1AC, your opponent's on-case responses, I forgot to put any in this 1NC, but let's imagine that they say that in fact Saudi Arabia will just, they say Saudi will continue to use our weapons even if we stop selling them, because they'll still have the weapons we've already delivered. Let's say that's their argument. We, as the affirmative, have read 8 minutes of offense in the 1AC. We don't need to read another card talking about this. However, in this Bachmann card, we, not that. Yeah, the US can ground the Saudi Air Force. So this is saying is that because the Air Force is so, Saudi's Air Force is so dependent on United States weaponry that if we stop selling, their entire Air Force will shut down. So our response here isn't to read a new piece of evidence. Our response would be, and you could write this on the flow, or you could write a couple words on the flow and just look at it and say it out loud during the round. Our response would be, our Kane evidence from the 1AC specifically shows how we could ground the Saudi Air Force because they're dependent on the US for parts and maintenance. So this isn't a new piece of evidence, this is just restating in our own words what our 1AC evidence was talking about. And this is a lot faster than reading a new card. Generally, you should spend about 1 to 2 minutes talking about on-case stuff, probably closer to 1 minute in your 2AC. If you're going slower, maybe around 2 minutes. You should only really read a card, only read evidence if they read a turn, either impact or link. So if your opponent reads an impact turn or a link turn, that's really important, right? That's a big piece of offense for them. And because it's a big piece of offense, you want to read a card to respond. So read cards in response to big pieces of offense. This here, what they're saying is not offense. They're just saying the plan doesn't solve because Saudi Arabia will just continue to use weapons they already have. That's not a reason to vote for the negative. That's just a reason not to vote for the affirmative. So you should generally read cards in responses to big pieces of evidence of offense, and you should only read evidence in that case. Pinch, impact, or link turns. Think about turns. Here's our response. This would literally word for word be what you would say in round. And you don't necessarily have to put this in your document. While you will be emailing this document to your opponents right before you give the 2AC, what we find is you don't necessarily have to have your analytics in the document. Just make it clear when you're moving on to a new point. If on your flow you want to write your argument, let's say on your flow in one column you have the 1AC. Then next to it you have solvency deficit. Saudi keeps using weapons. Next to that in your, let's say, blue pen for affirmative, you could write Kane evidence 1AC ground Air Force. And then in your speech, you could say our Kane evidence from the 1AC specifically shows how we could ground the Saudi Air Force because they're dependent on the US for parts and maintenance. If you can think of these and you can think about why the arguments you're making make sense, you should be able to say a lot of them off the cuff. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, write them down. Write them down right here. Turn them into a card, and you know what? You can send your analytics to your opponent. That is perfectly allowed, and it's probably something you should try to. It's something that it should be encouraged, especially at a novice tournament. If you guys have any questions, please Snapchat me about it. We might be able to get together after school Friday. We're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna hope we can do practice tomorrow. But with practice month, I'm not sure how long that can happen. So that's why I'm making this, so you can see my process when I go through creating a 2AC and deciding on analytical arguments to on-case responses.